I want to be happy. Don't you? Hi, I'm Conchetta, and I'm cueing everybody to just be happy. If you've been listening to Conchetta Q's Women of a Lovely Age, and by the way, most of this applies to men too, you might have been wondering whatever happened to her, because it's been months since I released a new episode. The last one was titled Cue Your Happy Spirit. It was mainly about my friendship with wonderful actress Patricia Morrison and her kindness. I wanted to share the importance of that word in the world today. Because prior to that episode, in February, I called it Where Am I Going? That one dealt with how I, along with so many other people, would be facing the problem of staying housed in LA when, after 40 years in my beautiful rent-controlled home, I was evicted by a developer. Ugh. And just weeks before I got that eviction notice, Bennett, my soulmate dog of 15 years, died. Well, if you've gone through that, I know you understand how it feels. How do you get through it all? That's what this episode is about. What do you do when you don't know what you're going to do? I knew I wasn't the only person going through bad stuff. Since February of 2020, it seems that everyone, everywhere in the world, has been experiencing grief in one form or another. Grief is often described as deep and poignant distress, also as the experience of coping with loss. We all experience loss in one form or another from the time we're children. No one gets through this life without facing it. The death of loved ones being the obvious kind, but what about the loss of health, job, home, friends, parents, marriage, income, serenity? When life as we know it changes, regardless of how bad or good it is, we're thrown off balance. When the structure and familiar order we relied on is gone, we lose our sense of security. It occurred to me that as we get all wrapped up in our pain, anger, and depression, we don't see that underneath those awful feelings is the most crippling emotion of all: fear. After roller coasting through the ups and downs of the past year, a new thought hit me. We humans are mostly creatures of routine. From the moment we're born, we're conditioned to living within a familiar structure. Parents put their infant on a feeding schedule, and later we have school time, homework time, TV time, bedtime. Familiar routines. When we're older, we form our own routines. A time we wake up, the way we begin our day, who we share our lives with. It's nice when there's a pleasant break from that routine, like a vacation, but whether you love your life or hate it, when that break is caused by loss, when someone or something is suddenly taken from you, that kind of disruption from routine, especially when multiplied, is extremely stressful. It feels like you're being thrown headfirst off a cliff. Will you crash into the rocks and die? Hit a tree and take years to recover? Or will you notice the fall may be actually moving you forward into a new space and a new routine? When our world is drastically disrupted, we're in free fall, frantically hoping there's a parachute on our back. Do you have one? It's an interesting word, parachute, described in the dictionary as a device used to slow the descent of a person through the air. But did you know the word originated in the late 18th century from the French para, as in parasol, umbrella, meaning protection against, and chute, meaning fall. Protection against fall. But as a verb, it means to make a sudden and dramatic appearance in a situation, as in someone who is parachuted into a new place to save the day. So, is a gut punch making us fall off a cliff, or is it parachuting us outside our existing world and saving the day? Think about that. During the time I was in free fall, I went into a store to buy some candles, and when I got to the register to pay for them, I saw this beautiful little card about the size of a business card, rectangular, covered in yellow daisies, and on it was printed, "Open your heart to all that God has planned for you." The word all was in caps. Wow. All of this was planned? Well, talk about receiving cues. I bought it and taped it to a white pencil box that sits right in front of me on my desk because that was one heck of a perfect cue, and I needed to keep looking at it. It made me realize we can't fully experience a new plan until we release the old one. For instance, did you know that when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it isn't as simple as shrugging off a cocoon, growing some wings, and miraculously flying off? It actually digests its own body and forms new discs, which essentially create an entirely new body from scratch. That transformation process can take years. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like a caterpillar, I guess we can't just sprout wings and fly off. Grief and loss are all, in caps, part of the plan to produce change. Change, as uncomfortable as it may be, is actually transformative. The first step out of that free fall is to simply surrender and watch where it's taking you. When you've been pushed off a cliff, it's hard, but don't allow yourself to look down. Take a deep breath and try floating for a while, listening for the cues that life is always sending, helping to transform you into that butterfly. Unfortunately, the greater the transformation, the greater the disruption, but hey, it's better than crawling around like a caterpillar. Oh, I received one more cue I'd like to share with you. I was reading a book and came to a chapter where a young boy was asking his farmer, the farmer that lived next door, questions about the Bible. He was very impressed with all this old farmer man knew, so he asked him, "Okay, so what's your favorite Bible passage?" And the farmer said, "Oh, that's easy. It came to pass." The boy was confused. Where does it say that? It's in many places in the Bible, son. Nothing comes to stay. Everything comes to pass. You remember that. Wow. Good times and bad times, they all come to pass. When we look at it that way, there's really nothing to fear. I mean, life is a series of passages leading us to the next best thing. Do you remember that Pete Seeger song, "To Everything, Turn, Turn, Turn"? Most of the lyrics, except for that refrain, were taken from the book of Ecclesiastes, and that was written around the 3rd century BC. A time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. To everything, turn, turn. Now that's another interesting word. We turn around, turn the tables, follow twists and turns, wait your turn. I never liked that one. And my favorite, it's your turn. And what about turn the page? I remember as a kid when reading a great book, I'd be so sad when I got to the last chapter and the story was almost over. I'd actually read those pages slowly because I didn't want the story to end. But sometimes I'd discover there was a sequel. The author had actually written more, and all I had to do was finish the book I was holding in my hand and go buy a new one. I could immerse myself in a brand new and fabulous story. In fact, in some cases, an author is so prolific that there are many, many books by that same person, all of them new and different. All we have to do is pick up a new book, open it, and life can begin again. Then turn the pages. And remember, we're not only readers, we're also the authors of our own story. Hear those finger snaps? You've just been cued. If you enjoy listening, I hope you'll subscribe and tell your friends. Until next time, this is your season to turn around and be happy. Why not?